This fireplace was fitted when we moved into Shrimp Cottage, and we've just really thoroughly enjoyed it. It's a fantastic log burner, keeps the room really warm, puts out a lot of heat. I've often thought that we should be using some of that heat for cooking. And, you know, it's got a flat top, it gets incredibly hot. We could put a frying pan on there or a saucepan or whatever and cook things on top of the stove. I'm not sure I really want to do that in the living room because we'd have cooking smells. You know, if I put a pan of food on there, it might boil over and make a mess and make a smell and all that kind of thing. But we can still cook things on this fire. So a while ago, I made this toasting fork. And we do occasionally use this, toast bread or crumpets or something in front of the fire. So today's video is going to be just roasting and toasting a few things in front of the fire. Now at the moment, it would be a bit tricky to roast things in here because there are still logs with flames, and if we put a piece of bread in there and try and toast it, it'll get sooty and smoky, and it will probably acquire a little bit more flavour of the fire than we really want to. So I'm going to wait until that dies down to embers, and then we can open it up and toast a few things in front of the fire. So just to prepare the first thing we've got for roasting, I've got these two lovely little russet apples. Two of those will just about fit on the toasting fork, so I'll cook two at once. These are a little bit overripe now, and they wouldn't be perfect for just eating out of hand anymore, but their ripeness means they will be incredibly sweet. So all I'm going to do is just score the skin into rings like this. We'll score some lines around the outside of the apple like this. I was going to try and do that really neatly, but I don't think it's quite worked out good enough. And the idea here is that as these apples cook, some juice will come out of these cuts and caramelize on the outside of the apple. So now one of these apples can go on that side, and the other one can go on there like that. Okay, let's get those back to the fire and see if we've got embers now to cook these. Okay, I think we're more or less ready now. These pieces, yeah, they will just break down into a bed of embers. I might just move that bit over there if it's going to be still flaming. There we go. So we've got some lovely hot embers over this side, which aren't smoking. This bit's still flaming away. Right. Wow, the heat coming off of this with the door open is quite phenomenal. So I'm just going to close it for a moment while I go and get the apples. Alright, so here's the theory. I'm going to prop this on the front rail there, so the apples aren't touching the ash, and then I'm just going to use the tongs here on the back end of the toasting fork to stop the toasting fork from slipping back down. And then we just got to leave that there ready to roast for a bit. And my hope is that the apple juice will exude from the apples, boil out and caramelize on the outside of the apple, so we hopefully will end up with something a little bit like a toffee apple, but with no added sugar, just the natural sugars in the apple. I can already hear them sizzling. I would try and get the camera in closer so you could hear that, but I don't want to melt the camera. Alright, it might be time to flip those around and just see what's happening. I can see some expansion happening. Oh boy, that went along a bit quicker than I thought. While we're waiting for that to finish, there is of course the possibility of toasting marshmallows. Now I've got a feeling that this is going to happen really fast over this bed of embers here. There it goes. Wow, how about that? Marshmallow toasted in about 20 seconds. And of course, the thing to do with marshmallows, or the thing I always did with marshmallows when I was growing up toasting them, is you peel off that melted layer and eat that. Very, very good these too. And then you go back in for another layer. So there we go, we've got a second toasty layer. Whoa. And yeah, sometimes they catch fire. And then we see if we can take the second layer off. Now I think we're only going to get 2 out of that one, probably because it's so hot. Wow, well those have progressed a bit faster than I thought they would. I'm just going to put that on its side like that now, and I'll have to hold it. Okay, well I think, yeah, that's what I was really looking for and hoping for, is that kind of end result, where the apple's expanded, puffed up a little bit, boiled out of its skin. I'm going to put those on plates and we'll let them cool a little bit first before we give them a taste. Meanwhile, Jenny, do you want to come and toast some marshmallows with me? Oh dear, mine was stuck together. Actually, is that going to make it difficult to take the... Oh, well, we'll find out, won't we? And they toast really quick. That's a better marshmallow pull than I had last time. Did you do that when you were a kid? Pull the skin off and toast it again?
Yeah, you could anything.
Well, that's the idea, because then you get the 3 times.
No.
The trick was to see how many times.
You could bake potatoes in the bonfire.
That's a bit wholesome. We used to roast marshmallows over candles. I'm not sure really how good an idea that was, but that's what we did. But the trick was always to see how many times you could pull the skin off and then take it back for another toast. So this is the second one. Yeah, I think we've lost it. All right. Yeah, we'll get a third try. And yeah, it seems like the number of times you can actually take it back to the fire is going to be a function of nerdy stats here. It's going to be a function of the density of the marshmallow and the heat of the fire. There were 2 different types of marshmallows on the shelves in the supermarket, and these were the lighter ones. There were some more dense, chewy ones than this, and they might survive a few more sessions. But anyway, I'm not sure. But I think the only thing was that this was obviously the toasty bit's the tasty bit. Ah!
That's why I'm not doing it.
Well, it's worth it, though. So today, marshmallows and roasted apples. I will make this video over 2 days, I think. So tomorrow, I think we'll go for crumpets and chestnuts roasting on an open fire. I mean, it's not an open fire, it's a wood-burning stove, but the door's open, so it's an open fire. Right, one more marshmallow, and I think we'll go and then have a look at the apples and see what's happened to those.
You can't have any of this.
Oh no, Eva, you can't have this. Whoa, look at that. Might have taken that one a little bit too far. Ow! Maybe I should just wait before I go and put my fingers on it. Alright, so take your pick. Okay, and these are going to be a bit sticky, but I hope kind of cooked. I'll wait for you to be ready. No, Eva, come on, nose out the way. I probably should have got sharper knives. Oh, I see, you're going to go for peeling it, are you?
Hmm.
Okay, yeah, I should have thought of that, but never mind. Yeah, the charred skin is unfortunately a little bit bitter. I should have probably waited until the embers died down a bit more than that. So we've got to take the charred bits off, but underneath there...
It's definitely cooked.
Yeah, and it's caramelised a bit, hasn't it? Doesn't need any additional sugar because the apples were so ripe. I think that was all right, wasn't it?
Mm.
That's it for today's session of fireside cooking with Mike and Jenny. Tomorrow, I think crumpets and chestnuts. Just one more little brief but very enjoyable observation. I went to take the toasting fork and the sticky skewers out into the kitchen to wash them up. I came back in here, and this room is filled with the aroma of toasted marshmallows and baked apples. And that smell is almost as enjoyable as tasting them. So it's the following day. Time for round 2. Now I'm going to put the chestnuts on, but at the moment the fire is just roaring and still burning actively. But this top plate here, if I just put a tiny little splash of a drip of water on there, just have a listen to this. That boils away to nothing almost immediately. This top plate of the stove obviously is really, really hot. So I think the chestnuts are going to go on the top there. Right, chestnuts. I had to buy these in because we used up all the ones we foraged, and actually they're quite difficult to store. I mean, apart from that, they're quite difficult to store if you just eat them. So what I'm going to do here, make sure that they're all sound. Some of them, maybe that one sounds a bit hollow. So we're going to pick out the nice plump ones, and then for cutting across in the top of them, yeah, we'll stab them like this. That'll do it. That's gonna hopefully prevent that from going boom. Obviously, knife safety here. I'm thinking about where this knife will go if it slips. So the amount of travel it's got, if it slips off the chestnut or whatever, is not going to hit my fingers. So yeah, the point of the knife actually digs pretty well into the chestnut, and it goes off in the direction of the sharp edge of the blade. And I think I'll just do about maybe a dozen chestnuts. The rest of them I'll put back out in the unheated utility room, and hopefully those will keep for another week or two. Storing chestnuts, if you try and store them indoors, they will dry out. But obviously these are the seeds of a tree that is trying to survive the whole winter. So if you keep them somewhere cool and not too dry, they can be stored all winter through. Right, those now go on top of the stove. Time for a slight rethink. The stove is getting plenty hot. This tin, I think, is insulating the chestnuts, or rather radiating away some of the heat before the chestnuts get it properly. So plan B, the chestnuts will go in direct contact with the metal of the stove. Now, what might have been better here is, do you remember those little cast iron pans I had? Unfortunately, I don't have those little cast iron pans anymore. They were just taking up space when we refitted the kitchen, and so they went off to a charity shop. Anyway, hopefully now in direct contact with the really hot part of the stove, those chestnuts will start to sing a little bit. Okay, took a little bit longer than I might have expected, but I think these are getting to be done. They're opening up on the top there, and there's a kind of roasty, toasty smell in the room. So let's take a couple that have opened up nicely. They are a little bit scorched on the bottom, which I'm taking as a good sign. I'll just take a couple off and we'll give those a try. Okay, take your pick, they're going to be hot to a touch. Oh yeah. Ow! I don't think it counts unless you burn your fingers a little bit, does it?
No.
Actually, it's still a little bit under, a little bit firm. Nice. Hot, but not quite got that baked potato texture that you sometimes get.
Well, mine's out hot.
So yeah, I think they could be a little bit better done than that. That's a little bit under.
No, this is right.
Yours is right.
Yeah.
I think yours might have been a little bit further along, but there's probably hot spots on that stove. I don't know, just a little bit firm. Mine was. Was yours soft then?
Well, it's a bit firm, but it's definitely.
I mean, it's definitely cooked, isn't it? Okay. Want a couple more? Okay. Ow. Hang on a minute. I don't think I've got the world's most delicate hands, but there are certain things that just seem to really come into contact with your skin more than others, aren't there?
Yeah.
I'm reminded of that scene in
Yeah,
Oliver
the
Musical
twist.
where
Yeah.
Fagin steals a chestnut from the chestnut seller and that one was better. Yeah, definitely worth waiting a few seconds actually. This one's not hurting me. And it came straight out as well.
Yeah.
Mind you, patience is not always easy to exercise with a treat like this. I think I'll get the rest of them off.
Ow, 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 ow.
And then we can let the fire die down to embers for the next phase, which is going to be crumpets. Now, worth mentioning for the video, I know some people don't like looking at crumpets because they've got lots of holes in them. Some people have a aversion to that sort of thing. That's part of the reason why the crumpets are going to be the last section of this video. So if that's a thing you're sensitive to, this is your warning that when we get finished with the chestnuts, we're going to be eating crumpets. So if that's you, I wish you all the best, and I hope to see you again tomorrow for the next door in the Advent calendar. If you don't have that sensitivity, and if you've got the time, keep going. We're going to make some toasted crumpets on the fire. That one was not well done at all.
Weird, isn't it?
I'm wondering if it's hotter nearer the chimney. Yeah, that one on the other hand is perfectly cooked and quite fluffy inside. I think this is why when you see, like if you go to Spain, when I was in Granada in the winter, there were street sellers with great big pans of chestnuts and they're stirring them. And I think that's probably just to keep them all cooking evenly. I actually think this is quite a nice way to eat them because I don't ever want to eat a huge pile of chestnuts. And so putting the oven on to cook them seems a bit of a waste, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
Right. Well, I'm going to leave you to it while I go and get the crumpets ready. Here come the crumpets. Now, whenever I feature crumpets in a video, people either don't know what they are, or often people mention that they're the same as or similar to English muffins. Now, certainly they're not the same as the things we call muffins here, which are like a flattened bread roll, but much more bready inside than these are. Crumpets are more like a really thick pancake made from a yeasted batter. So they are leavened and they're really bubbly, like a sourdough, but the bubbles have erupted out the top. These are not split. This is not one bread roll that's been split. They're cooked on a griddle in a pochette ring or griddle ring, and the bubbles that come out of the top erupt out of the top and create this really porous texture. Anyway, these are the crumpets we're going to be toasting. But we're not just going to toast crumpets, I've got some ideas. Firstly, if we're having crumpets, we're going to need butter. That might seem like a lot of butter, but really with crumpets, you want it to melt in and ooze out of the bottom. Well, when I say you want it to, I want it to. Next, I think we're going to have some cheese on these. So this is the Breberoos cheese that we tested on day 1 of this Advent calendar series. You may notice it's got a bit smaller. I wonder how that happened. So I think we'll have a few thinnish slices of that stuff. I also think chocolate will be nice. So I've got some nice 70% dark chocolate here and a conference pear. Pear and chocolate's a really good combination. Pear and cheese is a really good combination. I think pear, chocolate and cheese is going to be a good combination, but we'll see. Beautifully ripe. Look at that. Look at the juice there. Just perfectly ready to eat. This pear. And they hardly got any core at all. And I think we want this cut into tiny slices. That'll probably do it. Okay, everything is set. Off to the fireside. Right, the fire's died down to a lovely bed of embers. It might still be too hot for crumpets, but we'll soon find out. So this toasting fork goes in like that. And that way we can present the faces of the crumpet to the fire. I don't expect this is going to take very long to toast. So here we go. And I've got to keep an eye on this. Only enough capacity for toasting one of these at a time. I am going to keep turning it so I can really get an idea for what's happening. A nice golden brown. That's where it's at for me. Oh, I can already see that starting to toast. Look at that. It's going, and it has gone crispy. We'll give it a little bit longer on that side. Right. That is the first crumpet. Do you want it toasted more than that, Jenny?
No, that's fine.
There you go. So butter, cheese, pear, bits of pear. Meanwhile, I'm going to get mine going. Don't wait for me though. Right, off we go to the fire again. I think what I'm basically realising here is we need another toasting fork. Look, a little dog. You can't have that. It's got chocolate, Eva. It would make you dead. But you can have a little bit of cheese. Is that okay? How are you getting on there?
Yeah.
Is it working?
Yeah. Slow but sure.
Okay, now while I was paying the cheese tax, mine got a little bit more toasted. But it's still within acceptable parameters. So, I'm going to go straight on there with a bit of butter. And while that's melting in, I'm going to get a bit of chocolate on there as well, because we need the heat to melt that chocolate into the crumpet. And then over this side, cheese. And I'm not trying to keep the chocolate away from the cheese or anything. I think this is the really, really buttery, creamy cheese, this Brevirous. And it's a really nice, flavourful, dark chocolate. So I think they're going to be perfect friends. Go for it. Don't wait for me, Jenny. Just a few little bits of sliced pear along the middle there. Okay, right. I'm going to give that a go now. This could be messy. I like that. This is salted butter, but also the cheese is a little bit salty, which offsets the bittersweetness of the melted chocolate and the lovely sweet aroma of the pear as well. That's a good combo. What do you think, Jenny? Good?
Yeah, very good.
And now we know why the pages of my poetry books are stained with the butter drips from crumpets. That was good. Sorry, Eva, you can't have this. I'll save you a bit of cheese. I like that, actually. That's a really good combination. I'm glad we tried that. Would you like a bit of cheese? Oh, you've got a paw. Go on. Good girl. So that was Cooking at the Fireside with Mike and Jenny. Thanks for watching, and I hope you join us again tomorrow for the next door in the Advent calendar.